Good evening, everybody. We are back again tonight um, to further talk about parental alienation, equal shared parenting. Our goal has always been to create awareness. For many of you that have been following us, we are just trying to let the public know that parental alienation is abuse towards children. And what we need in our society is equal shared parenting because there are many families, many dads, many moms that have been alienated, children taken away for no reason. Of course, there are some situations that do have legitimate reasons, but you know, pretty much 90% of the time, fathers often at times have to fight to be able to be active in the lives of their children. And so tonight we have Demetre, Wilkins, and Beau. Brefi, Bill, of course, is going to be our co-host tonight. Um, and I'm posting the YouTube link. I encourage you all to share it with friends and families. I have the YouTube link in the chat window. Please forward it to your friends, forward it to your families. Our goal is to raise awareness and let people know that this is what's happening to a lot of moms and dads for reasons that is not it's not something that they expected. So please share this link with your friends. If there's somebody else that you know that is going through a very similar situation, please share it with them because some of these stories go a long way to encourage somebody, to bring hope to somebody who may be struggling as well. And so I have Bill with me tonight. Bill, thanks again for for taking the time to join us tonight. I truly appreciate it, and I must say your show on Thursday was awesome. It was a very emotional moment for me. Um, you know, my wife and I were talking about Adam's story, and she was also commenting uh, on Facebook as well. And I said, this is real. I mean, it's not fake news, right? This is these are true stories, things that people are actually experiencing, and I mean we live at a time where people shouldn't be going through this. It's just evil. So thanks for your show on Thursday. And if you're watching us tonight and you want to talk about parental alienation, please reach out to Bill. On the That's Mother 2 website, we have a link there as well that you can just go. If you have a friend or family that is ready to share his or her story, please, by all means, go to the website and then just fill out the form. And we'll get a form. We'll schedule. It has a lot of dates. Just pick the date that works out best for you. And by all means, we'll schedule you. We'll reach out to you to come on and share your story. And believe me, sharing their stories brings a lot of healing. You don't have to stay in the dark all by yourself. Coming out openly to sort of share these things, talk about it. It's a form of release. It brings a lot of healing, inner healing, but it also helps our society to know what's happening. To a lot of fathers and mothers as well. Bill, do you have anything to talk about from your show last week and before we
I'd
bring
just like to thank
Bo?
you for giving me the opportunity to have Adam Potty on to speak about his situation, and been keeping track of what he's been going through for some time now. And it's it's just so wrong how he's being treated throughout this process, and he's still struggling, still fighting to have his two sons in his life, and he really needs help. I've tried to help him. A friend of mine is also trying to help him. We've been working, and he took the time to share some very, very personal information with the world, which is not easy to do. And I'd like to thank him again for that, and you for the opportunity given to both of us to be able to share his story and let others know that they're not alone.
Yeah. Yeah, and thank you so much, Bill. Thank you, Adam, as well. I'm sure you're watching us tonight. Thank you so much for the courage. I mean, I was truly broken. I've heard many stories, but your story really hit me very hard. And for that evening, I struggled. I really struggled. I thought I was in the worst place, but the more I hear different stories, the more I realize that what, there are others that have a much worse situation than I do. So thank you so much. Um, so I'm gonna bring Beau on, Beau Arefi tonight, and so we have Demetre Wilkins. Beau, Demetre, thank you so much. For taking the time tonight to be on the show. We like to. There's a bit of feedback. Um, there's a bit of feedback from Demetri, your side. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you.
Oh,
Um,
yes.
so
It's
we
okay.
have
Sorry, guys.
no worries. Yeah. So Bo and Demetri, we truly thank you for your time tonight. But Bo, I'm gonna start with you tonight. Um, you know, we've had many, you know, people come on the show. They've been sharing their stories. One of the questions I asked them is, how did they get to this place? What prompted you could to get involved in this advocacy work that we are doing. Creating awareness on parental alienation um, and equal shared parenting.
Thank you. Well, how I got involved in this whole situation is, as a young man, not making or thinking I'm making right decisions and choosing a life partner and trying to do my best, but you don't see any signs. But because I've had children with this one woman and she has alienated my children, I started looking around, and that's how I got involved. Because when you first getting into this, you think you're the only one this is happening to. Why is this being done to me? And because of all the hardships that I went through, I tried to reach out, and I found that wow, there's just so many people going through this. And at first, I thought, it's just men that are going through this. But honestly, I mean, it's women too. But predominantly, I believe, in my opinion, it's more men that are going through this alienation. And I dug deeper and deeper, and it's just such a terrible thing to get into. And when you're alienated, your whole life turns upside down, especially when you actually love your children, that you enjoy spending time with them. I was a very hands-on, involved father, and I would be working 24/7. I'd be tired, and I would come home, and then I would see that my children are, doing their thing. I thought, what? It's not your fault that I have to work so much, so let's go and do things. And when the other parent doesn't want you to have a good relationship, well, she holds you back, and she starts all this alienation going on. And it's amazing how you can spend so much time with the children, but
Mhm.
when one other parent wants to be hateful and alienate you, boom, done. It's so quick that they can alienate you. It's not even funny. So through this hardship is how I got involved, and I wouldn't want, I wouldn't wish this on my worst enemy, because to be alienated from your children is not a good thing. It's the biggest stress of life, and men have committed suicide because they weren't allowed to see their children, which is terrible. We were involved in making them. We should be involved in their lives half of the time.
Mhm. Well, thanks for um, sharing this story, Bo. Um, you know, I truly like the fact that you're able to connect your faith, uh, to this. How has your faith really helped you in this process?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that question? You broke up there.
No, I was just saying that your faith has really helped with this journey. I know you're a very strong Christian. How has that helped you in the course of this process?
Well, to be honest, it's not that I'm like a man of faith. It's just that um, I believe that there's good in this world, and I believe in trying to live a good life. I understand that I'm human and I will make mistakes. I've made some mistakes on purpose, because I had my feelings hurt, so I would do something wrong. But there's times where, we as humans will make mistakes, and it's not because we want to be hateful.
Mhm.
I was When I first came to this country, my mother was involved with the Salvation Army, and they greatly helped her out. So I was somewhat raised in that environment. But myself, I'm trying to be a good person, and I don't want to try and put a religion on it because there's many good people in this world and different religions. I can't say someone else that their religion is wrong as long as they're following their beliefs and doing that. And the other thing is that it's very hard when you're into this alienation and your whole process of court and everything that goes on. It's hard to sit there and hear from someone that doesn't even know you to say you are not a fit person to be involved in your children's lives when they don't even know what's happened before. But because other people know how to lie properly and they've been lying their entire life, they paint you in a picture that you're the worst person in this world, that you're an abuser. And that really hurts. And that's why we men need to, and any parent actually, it doesn't necessarily have to be men, but any parent needs to make sure they're mentally stable. They need to work on themselves. They need to have a strong belief in themselves, because once we lose that, we lose everything. We can't stop concentrating on our own mental health, and we have to know that we matter. And the stigma is because we're men, we're automatically strong. Nothing affects us. We can't have a bad day. That we should be strong, and that's it. End of story. But they don't account that, we're human too. Between the two races of male and female, there's very minor differences. Otherwise, we both have a heart, we both have minds, we both love, we both hate. Why are we being treated differently? And it just seems hard for us men to go forward when no one cares about our mental health, our well-being, our peace of mind.
Well, thank you so much, Bill. You have any follow up question or comments for Bo?
I'd like to address some of his comments later, but I'd like to hear from Demetre. I see he's joined us now, and he's got in a quiet spot. He's hiding out in the car, it looks like.
Yeah,
How you
yeah.
doing?
So,
I'm doing well. I'm doing fabulous, man.
yeah.
We're
So
standing.
yeah, so I've been following Demetri for a while. Him and his daughter. Um, I know sometime last week, the daughter was, I think 2 weeks ago, the wife had a daughter, the ex-wife had a daughter, or girlfriend had a daughter, and then it turned out to be an abduction or, kidnapping, if I may say. And he was it was a very difficult time for him. He was posting a lot of messages on Facebook, literally begging people to help search for his daughter. And I think sometime about 3 4 days ago, they finally located, the daughter and the mom. The daughter was brought back to him, and I believe the mom was basically detained, which is an unfortunate thing, for the child. I strongly believe that children need both of their parents actively in their lives. But Dimitri is on. I'm just going to have him share his own story. So Dimitri, please, you have the floor. Just go ahead and share your story and how things turn around and what's happening now.
Thank you guys for giving me the platform to share. I recently had full custody back in May, May 27th of this year, I won full custody, and I was only rewarded because the mother felt like she didn't have to show up to the trial date, and she felt like if she didn't show up, they would just continue it like they've done everything else. Well, fortunately for me, I had some bulldogs of lawyers. I'd like to give a shout out to Erica Nos Santos, Nos Santos Law firm in Seattle, Washington. Um, they just were very adamant at making sure that this child was securely placed in my care, uh, based off of my actions and the evidence that I'd already given. And by her not showing up, I was given full custody. It's not something that I was initially wanting because, full custody means I'm taking her away from her mother. And that was never the goal, And she just her actions just ruled in my favor. And so September the 16th, so after that, it was up to, I didn't get physical custody until September the 16th when the detective did like a 4-month-long search of looking for her. And it's really crazy. I had her for like 3 weeks. She did 2 visits with the mom, and on the second visit, we were at a supervised visitation facility, and the mother asked the supervisor if she could get some water because she was thirsty, and not thinking that there was anything wrong with that, but she's an adult. I felt like she should have gotten the water herself, and she decided to be a host. She got up, the supervisor got up, tried to get her the water, and she ran out of the building with my child. At that point, she called me, let me know that my daughter had been taken, and being that I'm the custodial parent, and there were restrictions, and they were to be extra precautions because this woman is a flight risk with my child. That didn't happen. I called the police. I had reported that this was a kidnapping. She is not the rightful custodial parent, and she took that without letting me know of anything. She wrongfully took the child, and come to find out that she had fled the state and flew to Sacramento, California. And until we began posting wanted FBI poster is when her brother convinced her to turn herself in. And Wednesday night, 10:55 p.m., I had my daughter back, and her mom was in custody.
Wow. You know, it's amazing, hearing you speak about this, because there were a lot of people attacking you on
Yeah.
Facebook. And I believe they did not know the full story. Like hearing the story the first time from you is completely different from what people were actually commenting on Facebook.
And what I've learned throughout this process, honestly, a lot of those people were her family, and she only gave them what she wanted to. And I've also learned that when it's kind of piggybacking on what Beau said earlier, when people lie, it's harder to come clean about that lie than it is to build upon it. And for her, the only way that she could build upon that, instead of coming clean about why it is that she went through everything she did to try to keep me from my daughter, she decided to, well, he was neglectful, he was this, I was that. Well, I mean, the whole narrative being spun was that I shook my 3-month-old daughter. Now, I work in childcare, and you must pass a merit, meaning you can't have.
I think we lost him.
I'm sorry.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
back.
Yeah. Okay.
Sorry.
Awesome.
Yeah, I work in childcare, and I have to pass a merit in order for me to do that job. Meaning, I can't have any open cases with CPS. I can't have DV. I can't have anything of the sort when it comes to harming a parent or the child. I have nothing. And I never was a threat to my child or her mother. And I think that it was sad, quite honestly, that she's going through these lengths to keep a lie going, rather than saying that and just being honest, like, she's hurt. I moved on. I didn't want to continue the relationship, and I broke our home. And I could live with that versus you coming up and saying that I never cared about my daughter, I was abusive. And it's like, dude, I've still got videos of me and my kid. Like I remember when she was born. I can't. If a guy is not, if a father really doesn't care, the memories aren't embedded. There's no love there, right? And I think like a lot of dads get a lot of flack because of the strong persona, so to speak. Like, you know, we don't cry often. We put our heads down when things get tough, and we just mow through it anyway. Society has a really gives dad a black eye. Has deemed us with a black eye, and it's unfair and it's unfortunate because we love our kids just as much as the mothers. Yes, the mom has to carry the kids. However, we have to give the seeds of life, and I think that that's something that is overlooked often and underappreciated and undervalued. And I use this I've been trying to use my platform ever since getting custody to advocate for us, not just black men and black fathers specifically, because you know I do that for my folks, and understanding what how society has dealt a negative stigma on black men and black fathers, but I have also seen it for fathers in general. And I feel like the courts going forward need to do thorough investigations, and until a thorough investigation is sought out, 50-50 should be mandatory. Until you can until the courts come up with a thorough reason as to why one parent is better than the other, 50-50 is mandatory until a thorough investigation is had. Because the mothers get the benefit of the doubt because they carried the child. Yet again, mothers, stillborns happen every day. And that's not an act to moms, but there's bad moms out there too. Then you don't hear about them because, oh, she carried that child. No one can tell her how to feel. And for lack of a better word, what kind of shit is that? I mean, that's justifying negative and toxic behavior. I really want the courts to hold women accountable in the same aspect of respect that they hold men. And we talk about women wanting equal rights as men and things of that nature, but it's a double standard when it comes to the courts. Everything's all fair until we come to the courts and child custody. Wait a minute, because I'm mom and I gave birth and I had to go through this, that, and third. That means I'm exempt from this. No, absolutely not.
Well, Bill?
Yes, Demetre, I'm so sorry for what you've been through, and congratulations on being able to stay the course, make it through this, and get awarded custody. It's not easy to do, and
thank you.
That's a great job. I'm still going through the same process myself. It's 7 years in for me, and I've been battling myself. So I know the struggle that you've gone through, and I'd like to know how you did it. And you got that to where you are. That's what I'd like to know. But I want to give you a couple of stats that I just had the opportunity to interview Dr. Don Dutton from Canada, who did a lot of research in the United States going back to the 70s. He's now written a number of books on domestic violence, intimate partner violence, and these types of situations that you described, how your partner has lied, and instead of acknowledging truth and getting this resolved, she continues to lie. So Dr. Craig Childress from California, he's now in Colorado. He's diagnosed that the people that create these types of situations are either narcissistic or borderline personality disorders, and they create their own kind of like you said, narrative, but it's not just a narrative that they're trying to sell a story to, that they have a whole world that they've created, and it's almost a full delusion, and they lie to maintain this delusion of their world and how things are. And when things don't go right, they start to break down because they can't deal with the reality of the situation. So what you were describing there is when she got more and more panicked and just continued to go on with the lies. It's very symptomatic of these types of personality disorders. Um, has there been any diagnosis by the courts or any court-ordered therapy?
You know what's crazy is that my lawyers are said that she needed to be evaluated. An evaluation needed to be had because her actions didn't make any sense. So prior to me winning custody, what even drove that, the backstory behind me getting custody was in 2020, she wrongfully withheld because, and this is funny, because I made a statement about our child possibly having a speech delay, which she has some speech problems and issues. Not that she can't talk, but she's 5. You can only hear about maybe 60 to 65% of what she's saying. That's not good. Okay. My 4-year-old son can talk in complete sentences. I understand everything he is saying without having to question what it is. I mean, so I brought this to her attention 2 years ago. And that's literally crazy because 2 years ago today was the last time that I had my daughter upon me receiving full custody. She decided that she was gonna withhold the child. She felt like I was insulting her parenting. And in co-parenting, I believe that, you have to tell harsh truths. And unfortunately, they're not going to be the best thing, but that's how we better ourselves as parents, right? I didn't understand where she was coming from as far as me attacking her. I also feel like personally, me getting a girlfriend and she not wanting my daughter around was also a part of it, and that she wasn't willing to admit that. But they say actions speak louder than words, and so she met my girlfriend with her boyfriend outside of the parking lot in Burien, Washington, outside of a Burger King parking lot, and then denied my visit that following weekend because it was too smoggy outside. I digress, man. I feel like what you just read was spot on. Spot on.
It's so similar. They try to enlist other people to support them in the narrative they create, which is how these situations go on for years. Dr. Dutton referred to this as the courts and the police and everyone else's ideological based research instead of scientifically based research. So they come up with their idea that their starting point of investigating these intimate partner violence, domestic violence situations as the men are always abusive. And then they go look for evidence to corroborate what they've been told. And there are states in the United States that all domestic violence situations, it's automatically both parties are charged. And even in the states where both parties are charged, when they're called to a domestic violence situation, 83% of the time it's the male, 17% of the time it's the female, even though it's legislated 50-50. So Dr. Donald Dutton, he was provided me these numbers because he was involved in these studies for a number of years, and he spent 40 years in this field. And it's someone asked him, how do we make things better today to get this recognized? And everyone that took part in this went silent. No one had an answer, and it's the same. That's why he is no longer actively trying to make change with the system, because he spent 40 years trying to train police, the courts, and people on how to recognize these intimate partner violence situations, domestic violence by proxy, however you'd like to label them. But he recognizes people are starting with an ideological view that men are abusive. This was created back in the 70s and it's still perpetuated today. And that is part of the reason why this system and men in particular have so much problems and difficulties. When it comes to alienation, the studies show that both women and men suffer alienation equally. The numbers are about 55-45. You take 5% margin of error. So it's basically about 50-50 when you speak to the top experts and how they relate men versus women being victims of parental alienation. But when it comes to custody and access, overwhelmingly, women in both Canada and the United States get custody over the men. So these are two separate issues. And while it's easier, I believe, for women to create a narrative and get support by police and the courts, it is still done by men to women as well, and it is done at about an equal rate. I just believe it's easier for the women because, again, statistically, women almost automatically get custody both in Canada and the United States. Both are alienated equally. It's a sad process, and when men and women start fighting about who is being alienated more, that creates more division between men and women. And men and women are equally suffering from alienation, and the children are the ones, they're the innocent victims of this abuse. And we need to come together instead of fighting whether this is gendered violence. It's not. It's perpetrated by people that have a personality disorder, such as borderline or narcissistic personality disorder, that live in their own created world, and they cannot deal with the breakdown of the world they've created. So they continue to lie, create this facade of their life that they've created so that they don't break down. I think that's what you were describing, Demetre, with your situation. It sounds very similar to what Dr. Craig Childress has described with these people and these personality disorders and how they behave and deal with these situations.
I would say that's accurate. I have to agree with you, man. It's crazy that people feed into it. Like I was raised to get the full story, tell the whole truth and nothing but it, because if you try to make a one-sided thing, that's called manipulation, and you don't ever want to be viewed as a manipulator. I've been around men who manipulated women, and then I've been on both sides and seeing how manipulation works, and it's not a good feeling. Like, I like to go to bed with peace of mind and on my heart, like, and a clear conscience, and I do to this day, man. I'll never understand people who stay in toxic situations and then leading up to domestic violence, because I know for me, I decided to, like, bro, I'm not raising my daughter in this type of environment. I'll leave. I'll get myself situated, and then go from there. And we can figure out how to co-parent or whatever the case may be. But a relationship was just like, not with my child's mother, was not something I was happy when. I began being alienated my damn self. Like, I wasn't able to go out and hang with my friends. Couldn't go to the gym to work out. I couldn't go to my basketball games and play. My time literally revolved around work, being at home with my baby and my child's mother. And then her mom, who was honestly the puppet master behind it all, she is a manipulative woman, and she's very narcissistic. And her daughter will do anything she tells her to do.
Mm.
And I think me holding her accountable in that aspect and letting her know that you needed to woman the hell, tell her, like, let your mom know, put her in a place, to so to speak. And once I saw the refusal, it wasn't like she tried. It was a refusal to do so, because that's her mom. And it made it very that, and amongst the disrespect of me being the sole, like, person that was of income. She wasn't working at the time. I didn't really want her to work, to be honest and be fair. However, like, you had no side hustle. You weren't bringing any money to the table, and you demanded so much out of me. And I got to a point where I was outgrowing her, and she could do nothing but put her hands on me. So I'm at this point, in this juncture, I don't regret any decisions I've made as far as that goes. Maybe how I ended things and how I left, I could have maybe had a conversation with her, but I really went and left the barbershop. and I packed my things. And as I'm in an Uber, I called her and let her know that this relationship was over.
Wow.
There's one of the Facebook users that left a comment here, and I'd just like to read the comment and address it.
Sure.
It says, in order
Yeah.
to prove a personality disorder, you need a
Sure.
formal assessment. The court will not order an assessment unless there is something obviously wrong or there is concern about someone's health or safety. Now, Kentucky in the United States has gone to legislated shared custody with a rebuttable presumption. A rebuttable presumption is there is evidence that one party is not fit or capable of meeting all the needs of the child. In every other circumstance, if you have 50-50 custody, this takes away the situation like yours where a party will fight to win custody by making false reports because they get rewarded with custody by making these false reports. So in 1 year, the cases in Kentucky dropped by 50% of the family court cases in 1 year by bringing in this legislation. That frees up the courts to deal with more cases and makes it easier to identify these high conflict cases where you have a party with a personality disorder. And while you might need to be able to prove the personality disorder to the court to get custody, if you have two reasonable adults who can't come to an agreement on custody and access of a child, then you're not dealing with two reasonable adults. And this is why the courts get it wrong, because they believe they're dealing with two reasonable people. The party that is not reasonable will never agree to anything because they have to have things their way. These are the high conflict cases. These are the ones that need to be identified. And once you identify that these cases are high conflict, one of the parties is an abuser, and you need some way to identify that abuser, because according to Dr. Stephen Miller, the courts make wrong decisions 95% of the times in these cases because of the way that people present in court. They see a person who is traumatized, emotional, and erratic in the courtroom, and they automatically believe them to be the problem and make decisions against them, because that's not normal behavior. The problem is this person is traumatized, and the court is failing to recognize the indicators that this person is traumatized, and instead of trying to help them, they further abuse them, which further traumatizes them, creates another emotional outburst from them because they're being prosecuted and persecuted on lies. And you can't even speak up to defend yourself against these lies without being seen as irrational, emotional, or erratic. So that Dr. Stephen Miller conducted this study for the state of Massachusetts in 2014, and that was his assessment. The courts make the wrong decision 95% of the time in these cases because of how the people present. And that's a huge number. And if they were able to properly identify these cases and treat them differently than the other cases that resolved prior to trial, then they would have a better success rate in getting these cases resolved instead of letting them go on for years.
Now, Bill, just because you're on the Facebook, comment section, the same user, I believe, also posted a comment on alienation. I know it's an area that you've spent a lot of time researching. Do you want to, address that?
I've
And I have it. I have it on the screen as well.
I spent a lot of time. I'm 7 years into the process myself, and I've spent 6 years researching parental alienation, personality disorders, cluster B personalities, the law, and how these manipulators get to align the police, child protection, and the courts with them to win custody in these cases. And the pattern, I've identified it. I'm trying to do a documentary to share this process with other people so they can identify this and hopefully recognize what they're in before they're 2 or 3 years into it. And then they start to study to see what's going on, and they realize then by that time a false narrative has not only been created, but is substantiated by child protection reports, police reports, and They'll bring in a lot of people to fill out affidavits, tell stories. I've been the subject of 3 investigations by Child Protection on false reports. I've been investigated by 2 different police agencies, and nobody in the 7 years that I've gone through this process has ever provided any evidence to the court to corroborate any of the statements made by my ex, her friends, the Child Protection, the police, the RCMP, anyone. There's not been any evidence provided by anyone to corroborate anything against me. Yet I've been treated like a criminal. I've had to go to criminal court and defend myself for trying to pick up my children in compliance with the court order. And I was arrested, and my children were taken away from me for summer for false reports that were made about me abusing my children. Again, I was cleared of that, but the police would not move forward and charge the person making the false statements that led to a criminal investigation and an investigation by the Child Protection agencies. So this pattern and process has continued on for me for years. And I am so happy, Demetre, that you got through yours. It's amazing, because I'm still fighting, and I'm so happy for you that you got the support and help to get your situation recognized so that you could have your daughter in your life.
No, thank you, Bill. I think one thing that was important was my girlfriend, my partner, was someone that was very much on my side riding with this. And when she decided, she was going to support me with this 2 years ago, I mean, she's been so keen on helping me stay like level-headed, never getting too high, never getting too low. And I think just going through the process the last 4 or 5 years has helped me like never get too high on any moment because of who this person was. And so I just never allowed myself. I tried to stay even keel and never allowed myself to get caught up in the moment of anything, whether it was good or bad. I just stayed even keel. And I told myself after she was taken last Sunday that I'm not going to shed any tears. I'm not going to show any anger or any emotion of the such or any sort until she's home. And just maintaining my circle, the people around me. I think like from us as men, when you hear too many people talking like negative around you, it just, all the negative endorphins, man, it just awakens you, and it brings you down, man. Honestly, I'm thankful for my girlfriend, my son, and friends and family members, man. In the city of Seattle, like literally, I thank God first and foremost, because if He didn't create me to be a solid individual, and I was like a shysty person and a manipulative person, I wouldn't have had the support that I had. And so, kudos to God. Shout out to everybody that's been a part of this and being positive and spreading positive energy and love while I'm doing this. It helped a lot.
So one of the questions that I'm sure a lot of people would want to, get some answers to is, how did you pull off the 50-50? There are many on the platform that are just desiring, to have that opportunity to be active in the lives of their children, meaning equal shared parenting. How did you pull this off? How did you manage to get? Mhm.
Well, to be honest, we went for full, and I got full. And the only reason I did is because, and many times, like in this 5-year process, she would not show up to court and they'd continue it, right? And so when I was trying to get her and file her for contempt of court a year ago, it was like impossible until I hired an attorney. And my attorneys found polls and found and segues to find where she was located to get her served, so that she couldn't avoid service anymore. So they found her in contempt of court last year. And my visitations, there was a lot of like time added back that I lost within that year or a long span. And man, it was only like my visitation started in August, and she was denying them, talking about your time start yet because you're quote unquote, you're not the custodial parent, blah, blah, blah. And she tried to go that route. I was like, okay, it's fine. I sent every message to my attorney. And then, the judge finalized the contempt hearing. And so she had one strike on her. And it would have been two, but she gave her a fair warning that second time. Like, the next time there will be a complete modification of the parenting plan, and we will give custody to Wilkins. And so a lot of dirty stuff was going on her end. She was trying to do any and everything she could to get a rise out of me, and having her boyfriend and her mom antagonize me and patronize me. And I just, as bad as my self and ego wanted to go about it, I knew I was fighting for a different purpose. It was just me getting my daughter back, but like, I'm really fighting for dads who are going through the ringer. And so I just, as hard as it was, I just took the advice of my girlfriend. I kept every visitation recorded. I sent it to my attorneys, and I just let them do the rest. The only job that I had to do was control my emotions and how it is that I felt and presented myself. And she ended up, trying to get a restraining order again, because one of the last visitations, it was extremely traumatizing, and I was scared for my daughter and my own safety. And so we hid out for a couple of days after the visitation. I had her. My attorneys advised me to bring the child back. My baby's mom had called the Kirkland police and tried to file an emergency restraining order. And I called it. I knew this was going to happen, because her whole initiative was that I never had a relationship with my daughter. That was her whole goal at the beginning 5 years ago. And so the only way that she can continue this is if she gets this her trump card. This is her trump card. This is like the last big play legally that she thinks she can get away with. When I showed the judge the evidence from that last visitation, she blew off the restraining order against my daughter and her. She didn't find that I was the aggressor in the situation. And she told the child's mother that visitation continue as said on the parenting plan, but they're going to continue at the police station that was in Bellevue, because in Seattle the police were defunded. They weren't really responding to small matters like that. She decided not to show up for visitations and claimed that my daughter was sick, and then she just went dark and just stopped replying, turned her phone off, ghosted herself off the internet or social platforms. And I just did my job. She hung herself. And by her doing that, she was, again, during the contempt hearing, it was a trial. There was a motion to remodify the parenting, and she knew that the trial was in May. So when we fast forward to May of this year, she thought if she could show up, that they would just continue this, and it would be a continued thing, because as long as they can't find me and serve me, there is no hearing. So a hearing happened, and it proceeded, because the judge that came up with the original parenting plan was a bulldog too, and she just was like, no nonsense. And so I knew, like, every time I came with her, like, to come with hardcore evidence, maintain my decorum, and just let everything else handle itself. And that I control what I could control in the situation, and that was me. That was the constant variable. And she was just going to, like you said, she was going to self-destruct because her was falling apart. The lies that she told, everything was something to lie. Because no matter what lie you constructed back then to the now, it was irrelevant. It had zero relevancy. And she brought up old court documents. The judge, that made the parenting plan, she came up with that at that same hearing, it was ridiculous, and it was, a lack of a better word, it was a shit show. And that judge had no pity, and she granted me, without her present, she granted me full custody, a restraining order until 2035, and child support. And the restraining order is for me and my daughter. And so supervised visits were to occur, because again, I'm not one of those parents I wasn't ever celebrating the fact that, oh, you can't see my daughter again. But like what you tried to do illegally, I did the right way, and I saw the benefits of doing it the right way. And I'm not gonna lie, did it feel good to overcome all the BS and win? Absolutely, and that was joyous. But the sweetest part of that was seeing a smile on my daughter's face 4 months later, and it gets no better than that.
Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing this. Bo, what's your take on all this? What's anything to share? Anything that you want to comment on? Any contribution?
Well, I mean, just to hear everyone's story is very concerning. You know, it's heartbreaking to hear this, but there's always something consistent about what we men say. And our consistency is that we don't want to take our children away from the other parent.
Yeah.
We don't want to take it away from the mothers at all.
Mm-hmm.
We're always fighting for 50-50. Sometimes we have to fight for full because we're the responsible adults that can understand that our children need both parents. So because we're the responsible one, we fight for full custody so that she can't just cause all these issues and on a whim of her own feeling, oh, you can see your child, you can't see your child. I wish I was smart enough and I would give the suggestions to every single parent, whether you're male or female, but I would suggest more male because the male has more problems in court than female do. But when you're in a relationship, don't matter if it's good, the best, you think, you know, she's everything, I would suggest recording a lot of your interactions because I wish I had recorded my interactions with my mother of my children. She had many times said, do you know why I keep the children away from you? Because I know that hurts you.
Oh no! Wow.
That's what she said that. I wish I had that recorded because if I would have played that in court and if the judge still denied me, then definitely the corruption would show. But I was very much involved father. The children were always with me. Even when we were living together, I was always out with my children, you know. And she had no issues. And she had 3 other children from another guy. And one day when we were out shopping at our local grocery store, she tells me that she's embarrassed to be seen by her 5 children. She's embarrassed to be out with her 5 children. Do you realize that she has a very hard time sitting in a restaurant with the children? And she always goes through drive-thrus. She'll never necessarily go sit down to eat. It'll have to be a very special occasion or like teeth have to be pulled for that to happen. And we're talking about children that are well behaved. You know what? All those children, all 5 of them, yes, all children have problems. All children have issues. They're, you know, energetic and they're hyper. But when I've had my girls with me, they are always very well behaved. I take them to restaurants all the time. We sit down and dine. And every time I do that, at least one person walks up to me and says, wow, your children are so well behaved. And that's the fact of, you know what? I'm a dad. I'm a strict dad. I believe in manners. I believe in being polite. And I believe that you treat each situation the way it needs to be treated. So my children, when we're at a restaurant, they know to behave. Sure, they'll, you know, try and pull something off and do something different, but they will behave at the end. Because when it comes to having fun and playing, I'm right there with them. You know what? Down on the floor, playing with them, doing everything. When children have a good balance, there is no issues. You don't have problems with them. And that's what I suggest to men. You know what? Make sure you take time for your children. You do what you can. And make sure you keep proof of what you do. If you're shopping for your children, hold on to those receipts. Tuck them away somewhere safe. When you're spending time, whenever there's arguments with your partner, record everything down, because if ever it goes sour, at least you have evidence to go back onto. I worked 3 jobs while I was living with her. She was on, still is, on disability, on ODSP. With 5 children, making over $10,000 a month income, plus my 3 income, my 3 jobs, it would go to her. I had to put my foot down and say, at least one of these jobs I'm keeping for myself, because I still have to do for my girls. I still got them what they needed as well. I'm not saying she didn't either, but the amount of money she was making and the amount of money she was spending on the kids, making that much, spending on the kids that much. Totally different. But a lot of her family would say, oh, can I have money? Can I have this? Can I do that? And, you know, she was always doing for her family. And when it came to court, I was like, nope, I was a deadbeat dad. I'm a flight risk. I'm an abuser. All these issues. And you know what? The difference is, and I'm really proud of Demetre, because he was a strong-willed man. You need to be a strong-willed person. Your mind has to be clear. It's okay to be emotional, but not when you go into court. Not when you're trying to handle situations. Because if you're too emotional, then you will be known as an abuser. If you go in there saying, I love my children, I want this and that, they're like, oh, why are you being so aggressive? You know, so you need to make sure that you have peace of mind, peace in your heart when you go into court. Try and keep it evidence-based. Do not let your emotions run wild, because you, especially a man, you know, and it's different. All men have both these issues, but as Demetre had mentioned earlier, that because he was a man and he was a black man, that it's much harder for him, that he had to prove something even more. So when you're not a straight, necessarily white person, and I know Bill, you know, you're a white man as well, but it's just that first we have it hard as men, then we have it hard as men of ethnicity. I've paid more taxes than the mother of my children has, and she's lived here her entire life, and I've been here over 30 some years, but I've paid more taxes and I've taken this stuff more serious than she has, and then I'm told that I'm a flight risk, that I'm not a good father, that I'm not a good person, that don't deserve to have my children in their lives. And you know what? Life for me would have been much easier if I didn't love my children. If I just walked away, life would have been much more easier. But because I love my children, because I want to be in their life and I want them to have a good life, I'm going through all these heartaches and pains. And it's very concerning, because when I got into this, I saw how many men are committing suicide for the fact of trying to just be involved in their children's lives. Imagine that. A man that wants to be part of his children's lives, not to be hateful towards the mother, not to do anything bad, but just to help raise his children. And one thing you had said, Demetre, earlier is about toxic relationships. The reason why some men stay in toxic relationships is because they don't have the heart to spend a second away from their children. My heart was broken. My little one, when finally we said that we're going to separate, my little one was 4 years old. And when we told her that, she runs into my arms and starts crying and says, but who will be my daddy? I tell her, honey, I will never not be your daddy. It just broke my heart. And it's just terrible that, you know, we men have to go through this and prove ourselves for just wanting to be in our children's lives and to raise them. But for the hate of the person or the love of the money, one parent puts the other parent down with false accusations and allegations, and we have to jump through hoops, and still sometimes we can't be successful because we're emotional. So I'm emotional. I made a lot of mistakes. I lost out on my children. You know, I'm proud to hear Demetre was a strong-willed person, and that's what men need to do. No matter if you're in a good relationship, you always have to make sure your mental health comes first. because it's just like the glass being filled with water. If you have water in your glass, you can share with other people. But if your glass is empty, what are you going to do? You can't just magically pour it in and say, here you go. So sorry I've rambled on, but this is a very emotional thing for me.
Yeah.
And I would to be able to help other people with the issues that are going around, because we've all gone through it. And the best thing to do is to show other people, parents, both men and women, that you're not alone in this. Please reach out, talk to someone. We are all here. And whatever support group you're part of, you know what? Everyone's there for a reason. If you are in need of a help, just message somebody.
Mhm.
If they're truly there to help, they will help you. And if anybody messages me, I have no issues with talking to them. I'll call them on the phone. We can do video. We need to support each other. So whether you're man or woman, reach out, because ultimately it's our children that are suffering in all this.
Yeah, right. I'm just going to close off with this question. I have Junior Blairy, commenting on Facebook, also going through the same thing. And I believe, he's at a point where he doesn't know what to do. So he posted this comment. We'll close off with this comment here. And I'd like to hear your take, and if there's any, advice we can offer him, we can do that. And then we just close off with this comment that he's posted there. So I have it showing on the screen, and it reads, "My daughter is 15 years old. Her mom has custody right now, and my daughter is crying out for help. She's not drinking and stealing mom's pills. I'm the strict father." And believe me, there are so many children out there that are crying out, for their other parent. So many children out there, and I'm just uh, like, when I hear things like this, it just hits me, really hard, because no child need to go through this pain. No child need to suffer just to see the other parent. It's wrong. It's just evil. So I just want to hear your take on this. Uh, Beau, and then uh, Demetre, and then Bill, and then we just you can give him some advice as well, and then we just close off that way.
Thank you. Junior, unfortunately, it's a terrible thing that you're going through. I see the pain in my daughter's eyes, and a lot of it was caused by me as well, for being so emotional and allowing this to get to me. The best thing you can do is try and work on your own self. Make sure you're mentally strong and get the help that you need. If you have to go back to court or do anything that you can, try and get the help for your daughter. The court system needs to learn that children need both parents, because we both give something special to that child. We each have different experiences, and parents cannot say that their love is above the other. No, parents have their love is equal, but they just come from a different place. A mother's love is no more than a dad's love, and the same with a dad. It's no more than a mother's love. So if you can get involved somehow and make the court see this, hit the courts, get something done, and show that you can do this. Now, I'm surprised, because when the child is 15 years old, the child should be able to make their own decisions. And the child should be able to say, I'm moving in with my dad, or I'm moving with my mom, and that's the end of it. Now, I've had the situation where the oldest three from my children's mother, they had that same fight. They wanted to go live with their dad, and their mother would not allow it. So it was a big war. It got into a physical one between the kids and their mother, and she wouldn't even sign any rights away for that dad to have any child support, or doesn't have to pay child support. And that's the problem. This greed is happening. Now, if there's a way that the daughter wants to be, because he's saying she's crying out, she wants to be there. She should be able to pack up her bags and go. And for anybody, if there is no court order, you have the same right to hold the children back as the mother. But remember, what you do will mentally and emotionally affect that child. You need to do things properly. And if that child wants to be with you, I would personally discuss that, throw that into court, and then let that child make that decision. And that child should physically just go live with the other person. And then mistakes that I made is that I didn't go against their mother because that was going to play mind games with them. But mine were younger. But when your child is 14, 15 and higher, grab your child, take them with you, take her to court. If you have to go to the police station to let your child make a report, I would suggest doing that. Because when there's no court order, there's nothing that anybody can do. A father has the same right as the mother, but the only problem is we men don't necessarily know our rights and we don't stand up for our rights. So I'm sorry you're going through this, Junior. Believe me, we've all have gone through it, and there's no easy answer. But do your best and fight for your child, because when they're drinking and doing these pills, it's going to be a hard life. And I've seen some good kids become addicts, and my goodness, it's heartbreaking. And they've overdosed and passed away. Don't let that happen to your child.
Thank you, Beau. Demetre, any advice for Junior?
A couple of things here. I would definitely be making note of these. First and foremost, you need an attorney. If she, to piggyback off what Beau said, kind of, if she's not making like the decision, like she's 15 years old, like I want to come live with daddy. At this point in this juncture, man, you need to go ahead and hire an attorney. If you have any evidence that she's drinking and stealing her mom's pills, you need to give this information to an attorney or someone that can help you get your daughter back, because it doesn't sound like there's any structure there, and that itself is taking a mental toll on the kid. Like, she's 15 years old, she's not an adult yet. She's still very much, she's a teenager, she's very much still a child, and no child should have to grow up under those type of circumstances if there's a parent that loves and cares about how it is they come up. I think there's a negative stigma out on strict fathers too. Oh, they're mean, they're aggressive, they care the most. They don't want you to fall down a specific line. I am that strict dad. I let my kids know off the rip, I love y'all, I don't play. And there's nothing wrong with that, King. There's nothing wrong with that at all. Get an attorney, have a civil conversation with your daughter, but come from a place of love and understanding. Because also I'm understanding, like, if you're approachable, they're gonna come to you like bees come to honey, man. Be approachable in how it is you talk to her. Don't try to jump down her throat, because what it's gonna do is push her towards them pills and them drink more so than you think. You want to be a safe haven for him, a safe place. They need to be able to confide in you. And right now, that's all that she really needs from you on your end with as far as your daughter goes. If she's not trying to come and you're not opening the doors and making sure your doors are open for her, and when I say that, I mean, like, show her that you care, because actually right now she's just thinking like, my daddy's strict as a mug, like I don't want to be over there either. However, I'm just over here and ain't no structure going on. I'm doing what I want to do, and that's not somebody that respects her mom that's doing that, you know. So always keep that in hindsight, and man, again, keep your circle tight, King. Make sure that you are around positive energy, and control what you can control, and that's yourself.
Thank you so much, Demetre. Bill?
Yeah. There's Junior and also Facebook user. They both seem to have been running to some problems with the system and trying to get their children help. My name is Bill Edgett. You can PM me on Facebook, or you can contact me through the Dad's Matter page. Feel free to reach out to me, and I'll take more time to try and spend with you to help you through your situations, as we don't really have enough time to go over any detailed information that would be very beneficial to you right now. So if you need to, feel free to reach out to me, and I'll try to help you any way I can.
Mhm. Thank you so much, Demetri. Thank you so much, Beau. I'd love to have you guys back at some point again. Bill, thank you so much. For your support. For just doing this with me. We need to have our voices heard. We can't stay silent anymore. The more we stay silent, the worse off we become, because there's a narrative that's out there, and that narrative works against us. The moment we go through the system, it becomes an uphill battle for a lot of fathers, and we have to be able to prove to the system that whatever is being said about us or whatever narrative is being given is false. Um, and unfortunately, that is just the way it is. And I always encourage people, just keep records, make a lot of notes. Even if you have to record, just do a lot of recording. Avoid meeting in parking lots because that can get you in jail. I mean, these are real things. But one of the things I would want to say to you know parents is that if you know a lot of moms, and I'll just zoom in on that because pretty much a good percentage of moms do have custody to to the children, and to your point, Bo, there's a lot of manipulation that comes from that angle. um, and here's my take: if you truly love your child or your children, you will never destroy their dad to them. You never speak ill of their father to them. You will never withhold them from their father. Um, you know, if you love the children the way you claim to love them, you do everything possible to have their fathers active in their lives. If the father is not abusive, a loving father, a caring father, nothing wrong with the father. There's no reason to withhold the child from the father. This is not love. This is just evil. It's just wickedness. And the children will eventually grow up to know that you've played them, you've taken advantage of them, you've used them to hurt the other parents. And there's always a price to pay. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. And we are back again next week Thursday with Bill on parental alienation. That's Mother to Legacy Talk is also again back on Sunday. If you want to come on the show, please reach out to me, reach out to Bill, and then reach out to Mark Garrett as well. The Fatherhood Movement. We will coordinate to have you on the show to share your story. If you're an expert and you want to talk about any of the subjects or topics that we talk about on this show, by all means, we will welcome you. To come and educate that as well. But we truly appreciate your time tonight, and thank you for joining us. And we'll see you soon. Have a good night. And if you can all stay back for a few minutes as I play the outro.